Healing with Human Connection, where we have encouraging conversations about tough topics such as substance abuse, drug addiction, and mental health issues for those in the Northwest Indiana area. Our hope is to share information that will guide you to resources that can help you change your life so that you can live the life you were meant to live. Check out our website, www.healingwithconnection.com, to find a full transcript of today's conversation, along with a list of any resources or links mentioned in this episode. Enjoy the show.
Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so happy to be here. I am Jeanne Ann. I'm a therapist and certified life coach specializing in relationships, couples counseling, and transitions and such. And we have Lisa Scheller, my podcast partner, who's a life and health coach specializing in individual and family coaching. And she and her husband have written an excellent book on recovery from alcoholism called From Fear to Faith. And we are so excited to have Dr. Schreck with us today. Thank you so much, Dr. Schreck, really, for joining us. We know how busy you are. And of course, our goal, as we talked before, is to hopefully someone who's out there listening, struggling with either mental health, emotional issues, or substance abuse issues of any sort, either they themselves or a family member, that we can give them a little insight about what's out there and what's available. Mm-hmm. So maybe just to start, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the field?
Yeah, so I'm a clinical psychologist. So I got my undergrad degree from IUN in Gary, and then I studied gender and human rights at the United Nations School in Costa Rica.
Oh, cool.
And that was a great experience. And then I got my doctoral degree in Fort Lauderdale at Nova Southeastern University. Mm-hmm. So I knew that I wanted to help people. I just wasn't sure of what capacity and at what level. But then I started to do volunteer work in domestic violence and helping survivors with that through different communities. And since I joined NorthShore, I've been able to do presentations and workshops with work-life balance, women's health, self-care, stress management, those kinds of things. So that's been really, really important work for me to be fulfilled, but also to help other people.
Yeah. That's wonderful. And would you not say, Dr. Schreck, not to get off, but oh my gosh, after COVID, all those things you just mentioned.
Oh, definitely.
Stress and reacclimating to society and oh my goodness, for men, women.
Losing your support systems because we all became very isolated. And I think even after the intensity of the pandemic lifted, we sort of adjusted to that lifestyle in a strange way. And then to go back to asking for those things or needing other people, I think it felt more like a burden to do that. So
like heightened anxiety on some level for all ages, school children going back,
readjusting to things that we had to adjust to the pandemic and unadjust to the pandemic.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and there's a lot of stress doing all that. That flexibility and
and change. People adjusting to change, which is hard for people. So we all had to change and got fearful about the pandemic. Now things are opening up. What does that look like? And now I'm fearful about what can I do or how do I do this?
Oh, absolutely.
And tell us a little bit about NorthShore. Again, for anyone listening, what is it? What are the programs? You told us a little bit about what you do, but can you give us a big picture of...
Sure, I'll try to do my best for the big picture and not just the specialty, but I joined NorthShore because of their mission, and they really reach out to all members of community, and there's no discrimination against income, race, culture, anything like that. And so it's also very integrated. And so I really liked that part of it where it's the whole individual. So there's the medical side, the psychiatric side, and then also more of the mental health, behavioral health side to that. So what I do personally there as a psychologist, I can do psychological assessments. So if there's any issues of learning disorders or issues with school, we can assess for that and hopefully get accommodations for any disabilities or needs there. Help with appropriate diagnosis, so it's appropriate treatment. And we serve individuals, families, couples, those kinds of therapies. So really it's just an array of services, and it's so wonderful to be able to offer so many different things.
Right. Can you talk a little about, I love that you mentioned an appropriate diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes I have a client right now who I don't think years ago was diagnosed appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes medication is given that past diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe for someone listening, what does it mean to get diagnosed? Like what process, generally speaking? Because I think sometimes people are afraid of that.
Yes, and even as clinicians, it's really difficult. And so we need to consult with other people and really listen to the individual and really look at their history and their timeline and take all of that into consideration. And what's great about testing is that it does add a somewhat objective component where it's normed on data. And so even if someone has been diagnosed in the past with a certain disorder, how does that look now?
Right.
And what different things might have affected that diagnosis and may have led to other serious conditions as well.
Right.
So getting that diagnosis is extremely important, not just for medication, but also for evidence-based treatment.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And to make sure that it's something that really fits for what that patient needs,
Right.
and to get them where they need to be and want to be is so important.
Yeah. I love when you're talking about evidence-based, because sometimes in the world of therapy or counseling, it's like, oh, come on, what is that all about?
Oh, we're just talking.
Yeah. But when it's evidence-based and there's data and what was your behavior before and what is it now and how have you made progress, it's very real.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's nice science and relationship joined together to help somebody. Yeah,
That's great. So if someone's listening and they're interested in either working with you particularly, you seem wonderful and compassionate.
Yes, I
Well,
appreciate that.
truly in the field,
you.
when you find someone who is very good and that you can relate to, and trust is huge.
Absolutely. Yeah, that safe
How would
space.
they find out about NorthShore and maybe making, how much does it cost and how do you go for an assessment or an intake? Or
Oh, sure. So first things first would be to go to like NorthShoreHealth.org, and you can set up appointments through there. I know with behavioral health, we have amazing coordinators who not only help schedule appropriate services that are needed, but they can also help the patient to find community resources.
Oh, nice.
So if it's therapy, in addition to housing issues,
Yes.
basic needs as we move
Yes.
up the ladder, right?
Right.
So going to that website, NorthShoreHealth.org, and then you would make an appointment. You would come in for the intake. We would meet, get to know all of the history like we talked about and what the needs are, and then build a plan off of there. And pick an appropriate therapy and look at diagnostic tools, and then look at, are there other health conditions, are there other needs that are, and then make referrals as appropriate. Yeah, so it's not just this one stop and then you have to start again.
Right.
It's you start with one person and then we really help the person
Build on that
You got
instead
it.
of you have to go and tell your story again. to
Each
somebody
one and
else,
make another,
and that can get
so we
very
put those
overwhelming.
referrals
Yes.
in within
Yeah.
house, and it's great. So that's all
That's-
set up. Other people call them from the other departments. I mean, it's
That's awesome.
so the
Because-
first step is the important part.
Well, in the first step, I guess I like bing, a lot of questions that maybe listeners might have would be, I don't know if I can afford it. I have insurance, but I don't know, or I don't have insurance, what do I do? That question, in addition to once you get diagnosed, I always think it's important when people ask me, should I get counseling, should I not, should I go for it? There's no commitment. You go to NorthShore, you go through intake, you get an assessment. It's still your prerogative to take it or
Absolutely, yeah, the free will of it.
Yeah.
And I think something that can become a deterrent is if somebody has tried it before and it wasn't a good fit.
Yes.
Or they just became disappointed, or they felt like it wasn't a success right away. Being able to go and try that again, because there is somebody for everybody, and there is a good fit.
Wow.
So as far as the financial piece of it, NorthShore does sliding scales. They work with Medicaid. They have incredible insurance navigators that you meet with to really see what are the financial needs or barriers, and then they help work through that.
So there'll be no surprises financially.
No.
I mean, I always say that you know, you'll know what you're getting.
You got it. All the information will be there.
Great,
great.
And I know right now with the coming off the pandemic, there's a wait list at different places. And so what kind of a wait list, if people are looking for urgent care right now, they call around and there are people saying 3 months out, you're like this many months out, you know, we don't want people to lose hope. But do you know, is that something that there's a barrier there?
There is, absolutely. And I think with, you know, that's a great comment to make because the need is so great. But something I thought about was what's so much more important is that people are reaching out more.
Yes.
And so the need has always been there.
Yes.
But people seeking the services is so, it's so numerous. And so us being able to have the support and the services available is extremely important. The education piece for us as a mental health professionals is so important.
And I think that's such a huge part of it is educating people about it, because we talk about any chronic disease or any disease at all. The more you learn about it, the fear kind of will dissipate. You know, so you know, it's kind of our book here, From Fear to Faith. You know, like when we're fearful, because I was not raised in an alcoholic family, but then married and into an alcoholic family, not, you know, and having to deal with that, and with a lot was fear. But the more I learned about it, the more I educated myself, the more I had to look back at myself and go, well, how am I triggering this, and what part am I playing, and so on and so forth. But the more I educated myself, the more I was able to have more of a clear conscience that this, I am a part of it, but how can we grow together?
And I think educating yourself, but also having people around you who are educated too, so that it isn't just a self-education and that you're by yourself doing it. And so educating even the larger community, which is great what you all are doing here. And really, you know, to me, taking it even higher, you know, helping to initiate policy that supports having these services available, funding that supports these things. Because the more we remove stigma and have people going, which is amazing, we have to have those services there, because in 3 months, that motivation might change.
Exactly.
You know, so
absolutely, that's great information. But this is, you know, again, the reason for the podcast is to let people know there are services out there. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't forget to don't be afraid to make that first move.
And as far as you were talking about, you know, if there is a wait, don't stop there. Go to the ER, call 911, the National Suicide Hotline, and I wrote it down because I want to get it right. 800-273-TALK, TLAK, which is 8255, 800-273-8255. It's anonymous, and it's people who are trained, where you can just talk in that moment, 24 hours a day, and not have to wait 3 months, because sometimes that struggle can't wait 3 months.
Right.
Well, Dr. Schreck, thank you so
Oh my gosh,
much.
my pleasure.
What a fascinating work you do, and I'm sure you help so many. And we invite anyone who's listening to please call NorthShore. And if you have a question for you specifically, Dr. Schreck, then maybe email or something.
So if they contact NorthShore, then they can get in touch with me either through an appointment or through one of the care coordinators.
Great, wonderful.
Wonderful.
And is there anything else you want to share that you think is important for us?
You know, there was one last thing.
Okay.
The power of our individual mental health and how it really radiates out to the world. You know, when we talk about being isolated and struggling with your own mental health issue, it affects the way you interact with your family, your friends, how you do your work, how you engage with the larger community. And so the importance when we talk about individuals, it doesn't just stay there. It really impacts the decisions we make and how we got that.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you, Dr. Schreck.
You're so
Lisa,
welcome.
Thank you. Cassie, thank you.
Thank you.
And if anyone, again, call NorthShore and make an appointment. And if you have questions, they can help you out. And we thank you for coming. And as Dr. Schreck said, really, it is about self-care, self-love, having the courage to take care of ourselves and make that call.
So make that first step.
Yes.
Check it out.
There you go.
That's right.
Thank you, and have a great week.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, let us know by leaving a comment or review and sharing with a friend. All resources mentioned today and a full transcript of this episode can be found by going to our website, www.healingwithconnection.com. A video of this recording can be found on our YouTube channel, and the audio podcast is available on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts.